There's a liquor store to the right. Should have known you'd know where to find the boys and the booze.
My God, Christina, it can't be. The last time I saw you, you were 4.
How are you, Miss Bennett?
God, call me Barbara. They're teaching you some fancy manners at Chadwick.
That's not all they've been teaching her.
Well, how do you like school?
Very much, thank you.
She got expelled.
That's a lie. Excuse me, Barbara. Christina, I want to talk to you.
In the other room.
Why do you deliberately defy me?
Why did you tell her I got expelled?
Because you did get expelled!
That is a lie.
Why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to? Why can't you treat me the way I would be treated by any stranger on the street?
Because I am not one of your fans!
This is a Silk exclusive.
Welcome to another episode of Words, Music, Dance. I'm your host as always, Paulie the Bull, no relation to Gavano. Shout out to everybody listening. Shout out to everybody watching. Everybody that click like, everybody that share, do all that good stuff. You know I appreciate you. All right. Shout out to everybody that go to the website. Shout out to everybody that click on there, hit the merchandise up. I'm trying to re-up some more stuff. Just bear with me, but whatever is on the site is what I have. Whatever you don't see, I do not have right at the moment, but there will be more coming. All right. Now that the commercials and the ads out of the way, it's Words, Music, Dance. As you can see, we got a group here. We're gonna talk about a specific video, specific topic that Michelle sent to me. Hey Michelle, we got Krista, we got Steff, we got Tiff, and we got the homie Jared here to give me some man support because I don't want to get jumped by the ladies. You know what I mean? So, but we're gonna get it popping. Michelle sent me a TikTok video the other day, and she suggested, this would be an interesting topic that we can dive into. Basically, something that I would say is not as often spoken about, mommy issues per se. Specifically in the video, it was, women and their mom relationship. We may also delve into men and mom relationships, and we might even touch on dad too. Daddy issues is kind of a thing that's mostly spoken about. But today we're gonna say, a lot of people like to say, oh, dads are not there, whatever, what have you. In some cases, not all, but what happens when the mom is there, and what that means and what that looks like. So Michelle, you sent me the videos.
Here is what mommy issues look like in women. For a young girl, her mother role models who she should be, and her father role models how she should be treated. But that's only one half of the coin. I'll explain the second half later. If she grows up seeing her mom dishonor her self-worth over and over and over again, she will do the exact same thing in her relationships. A healthy mother figure shows a girl what self-worth looks like. And if the mom doesn't have that, she cannot instill it in her daughter. Now, the second half is how she is treated by her mom. How she's treated by her dad basically sets her up for either a great or a terrible string of relationships with men. But how she's treated by her mom sets her up for either a great or a terrible relationship with herself. If she is shamed, shunned, or rejected at any point by her mom, that will deeply, deeply affect her own ability to love herself. It will deeply, deeply affect her ability to express her feelings and even feel her feelings. And that will show up in relationships, big time. So if you are experiencing anything like that, how you heal it is by feeling your feelings to the fullest, sitting with them as difficult and as uncomfortable as they may be, and fully accepting them. Now follow for more polarity advice. Here is what mommy issues look like in women.
Hello, I have both mommy and daddy issues. So I'm going to share with you what it looks like so that maybe we don't feel so alone all the time. Substance abuse, numero uno. Impulsivity, irresponsible with finances. Very high emotions or very low emotions, or none at all. No in between. Inability to process those high and low emotions. So then I shut down. But sometimes I don't shut down. Sometimes I have angry outbursts. Depends on the day. Self-loathing, self-doubt, not being able to decide what's right and what's wrong. Inconsistency. I can't stick to one thing for very long. No motivation whatsoever. Periods of mania and depression. Funny. I sure am funny. I love really hard. I do. I love really hard. Overanalyzing everything. Take things very personal. Resistance to a lot of intervention. Accept medication, but even that's iffy. I say low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. Hopelessness. I'm almost 30 years old, still living with the repercussions of childhood trauma because it affects you in way more ways than you would think for a long time. And you're not alone. You're not alone. Need medication? Do medication. Sometimes people need it, but we're living and breathing.
What stood out to you? Tell to me what made you want to have this conversation today?
So pretty much, I feel like when I can't sleep, I'm on that TikTok rabbit hole. I jump down every fucking rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And when that popped up, it was the original one, the one with the guy. Mm-hmm. So I saved it because it struck a nerve. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, this is actually really interesting. Struck a nerve. And I kind of like festered in it, thought about it. And then maybe like 2-3 days later, I saw it pop up again. So I was like, damn, my algorithm is trying to like set a fucking point. But then I saw the stitch and I said, oh, hold up. And when the girl started talking, it definitely struck a nerve. Like it was one of those like kind of lash in my eye. Going on. And it was something because I feel that daddy issues is the one thing that they always bring up with females. Oh, you have daddy issues. You have daddy issues. I mean, I've been told I have both. I beg to differ. I definitely do agree. I have mommy issues. I feel like I have a perfect relationship with my father. My father's like my best friend. As I've gotten older, I feel like, I have a healthy relationship with him. As for my mom, it is very toxic, very toxic relationship. And I feel like there was a turning point in my life with her where I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And being that I have a daughter, I was like, I don't want my daughter to be like that with me. I don't want my daughter to feel the way I feel towards my mom. Now, I had my daughter at a very young age. So to me, it's like I grew up with her. So my son is definitely getting a different version of me. I feel like I cheated my daughter out in the sense of like the version that my son is getting. I feel like my daughter should have been getting, but the point was that I was young. Now that I'm older, I see my wrongs, my rights, the do's and don'ts that I did with her that I'm trying to avoid with him. And pretty much it was one of those things where I feel like I know that my temperament is 0 to 100. There's no in between. Like it's a trigger. Like there's no gray zone. There's no safe zone. To me, it's like I'm a bull. I see that red flag. I'm charging. Like I don't give a fuck who's in front of me. And it's not a good thing. I'm working on it. I'm trying to work on that. But it's one of those things where I remember.
We all are.
Absolutely. The best thing is to admit we're not done. We're never done. It's always, more to grow. So definitely.
So I took the time and I was like, okay, if I speak to my mom in a private space, we're going to put hands on each other. Like it's just going to happen. I'm sorry. So okay. I was like, you know what? Let me take her to a restaurant. We could speak in public. I know that I don't like making a scene in public. I'm not that type of person, never have been, never will be. I just feel like if that were to ever happen, you have to push me to that breaking point. So I'm there and I'm talking to her and I'm like, hey mom, I was like, I know that we haven't had the best relationship. I want to try to mend it. Like you're in your mid 60s. I'm already in my mid 30s. Like, you know, like I want to have a healthy relationship because I don't want to detach myself from you in the sense to be so cold and I care about you. Because like, to me, like if I don't hear from my dad, if my dad doesn't pick up the first ring, he will have 50 missed calls from me until he picks up. So like my mom, if I call her, she don't pick up, all right, I'll call her whenever. So it's definitely a different dynamic. So when I
question, Michelle, real quick, you had that conversation recently or?
Recently with her, like actually like a couple months ago.
Okay.
So I told her, I was like, hey, I feel that we have a very toxic relationship. I was like, I feel that these are my toxic traits that I bring to the table. And I feel like these are your toxic traits that you bring to the table. So when she had the audacity to say, she goes, I'm not toxic. You're toxic. She goes, whoever you hang around are toxic people. Your relationships have been toxic. So she's just bringing everything out. And I was like, I'm talking about you and me. Like, I ain't talking about anybody else. Like, I'm trying to work on us. And I feel like it was just, to the point that I went home and I cried. I cried to my sister and I'm like, yo, I'm fucking trying. Like, I'm trying. And if she can't own up to her wrongs, this is never going to work. I was like, so, and then my sister's like, then give up. I was like, but then if I give up, then I'm the bad daughter. If I give up, you know, to her, all her friends, she don't care about me. So then it's one of those things where throughout the years, what the way that my mom was with me and treated me kind of made me realize as I got older, I resembled my dad a lot. And I feel like because she has that love-hate relationship towards my dad, she took it out on me a lot, which led to, in the sense in the video, I know the girl led to like codependency, substance abuse, and then all those things. And I do feel that a lot of the parts, seeing my mom when I would grow up, my mom was always drinking. My mom was never home. She was always out with her friends. She was always trying to start a fight with my dad, you know? So it got to the point like when my dad decided to leave, I wasn't mad at him because I'm like, yo, I don't blame you. Like, she's a lot to handle. And now seeing my dad in a healthy relationship with my to the point that I have a better relationship with my stepmom than my mom, that speaks volumes. And to see, you know, my dad happy in a sense with a woman who makes him happy, is just, you know, you just see the level and how his wife embraced me like a daughter. Like, she won't even say this is my stepdaughter. She'll be like, this is my daughter. And, you know, like, it's such a beautiful thing, to the point I'm like, damn, I wish I had that with my mom, you know? And then, so all those things where even myself, I would, yes, I started drinking a lot when I was younger. Like, I would be a heavy ass drinker. I would be the type that like, yo, I could keep up with a guy. Like I was like, my brother-in-law was a Marine. So I was like, if I could keep up with him, I could keep up with no. And I would use these excuses. But to me, it's like, where I saw it from was my mom. That's really what I saw, because my dad's not a drinker. My dad's not a smoker. My dad was the type that he would work. Granted, he was never there physically in the sense because he was always working. But to my knowledge he was putting a roof over our heads, clothes on our back, food on the table, supporting a family of 6. So to me, my dad did no wrong. Granted, as I got older, my mom's like, oh, he's with this bitch, he's with that other girl, he's with this. And I'm just kind of like, well, you pushed him there. So I was always putting the blame on her because I had my dad on such a high pedestal. Now, when I was told, well, you have daddy issues because you date older men, I'm like, it's just older men tend to gravitate to me. And, you know, to me, I'm not, there is a age gap that I would say, okay, like, all right, past certain age, I'm like, all right, that's a little too old for me. But like I said, when they were talking like, oh, well, you have those daddy issues, I'm like, no, I really don't. But then when I saw that video, like I said, it really triggered for my own personal thing. And now seeing my daughter, you know, as a young teenager, and started to kind of give me that pushback, that's where I was like, okay, I can't react the way my mom reacted with me. Like, I can't do the things that my mom disciplined me with her, because it's not going to work, you know, because my daughter, as you know, she's a daddy's girl all the fucking way. And like, her father could do no wrong. And to me, it's kind of like, well, I got to have that, like, I guess that relationship with her, that bridge was kind of like, listen, like, it's okay for you to come and talk to me. It's okay for you to tell me these things, because I'm not going to overreact. But to her, she's like, well, I see how you are with your mom. She goes, I'm not comfortable when I come to you. And, you know, I feel like my daughter is very, very advanced for her age, the way she thinks and stuff like that. And I can't be mad at her. Also, the fact that it's a different generation, you know, the way they think, the way they're, you know, they're told to like think and all this other stuff. So it was one of those things that I actually sent her the video. I sent her both of them.
Your mom or your daughter?
My daughter. Okay. I sent it to Kay. And I told her, I was like, hey, I like to take you out to dinner. Can we go out and chat about this? And she goes, okay. So I was like, what did you think about it? So she gave me the feedback and she goes, I could understand why you are the way you are when it comes to grandma. She goes, because I've seen it. You know, she's like, I've seen it. She's like, I've seen where there's times where my mom, like, she shouldn't be drinking the way she drinks. And she's completely inebriated in front of my daughter. And I'm like, why would I want my daughter here? Like that's not like, if you didn't learn with your daughters, at least learn with your grandchildren, you know? So, and for her, it's like, she doesn't take that accountability. And I feel like that's another part where there's times where there's certain situations where I won't take accountability. I was like, no, you're just gaslighting me. You're like, you know, like, I always try to find a way to not take the blame. But like I said, seeing that stuff and then speaking to my daughter, it kind of put me to a point where I apologized to her. And I was like, hey, like, I'm sorry. Like, I am so sorry for, you know, not being there the way I should have been. But I can only say it's because I was so young. Like, I was so young. I grew up with you. It's not an excuse. I feel like that should have been a wake up call, like saying, hey, listen, you have a kid, like woman up. Like, this is the choice that you made to keep this kid. Like, you can't be going out, partying, working 2 jobs, going to school, taking care of her for a few hours, still going out to the club. But those are the choices I made back then. I can't take them out. Do I regret them now? Absolutely. But for my daughter to see that I was coming from a very like humbling place and saying, hey, listen, I maybe I didn't do right by you when you were younger, but you know what? I will do right by you now as you're becoming a young woman. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I made. Like, you're like, you know, next year is practically the year I got pregnant when I was with you. Like, I don't want you to follow my footsteps. Like, I want you to be better than me. I want you to be better than your father. Like I want what's best for you. So if I'm tough or I'm being a bitch or I'm being, you know, it's because I want what's best for you, but I don't want it to be where it's toxic. I want it to be where it's healthy. And I feel that it definitely opened a dynamic with my daughter where she's like, I get it. She goes, I get it. I understand. She's like, listen, I know that I'm all about Papi. She goes, but, you know, she's like, I love you. But it's one of those things that I told her, like, I don't want to instill those mommy issues with you because I already see she has daddy issues 100%. And I do feel that her father is to blame, you know, because he spoils her so much to the point where she'll walk around. She just went to Anime Con and with my sister, she was like a little tiara. My sister's like, what are you going to buy a tiara for? She's like, because I'm a princess. And that's what Papi said. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, humble yourself, sweetie. Like not everything's going to be gifted or given to you because that's what your father did. Because with me, I make her work for it. I make her earn it. You know, it's just like, so with her, she gives me the pushback that I'm being controlling, that I'm being toxic with her. And it's just like, no, like different. So that's why, like I said, I felt because of the magnitude of how I took it so deep to heart, I was like, you know what, this might be an interesting topic to talk about with people who are open in the sense of like, you know, because it is a vulnerable topic. It's something that is very vulnerable to really speak of. And the fact that they brought it onto females, but then I started thinking, I was like, well, I do know some guys that have mommy issues, but it's not really spoken about. But then again, when it comes to males speaking about just issues in general, whether it's mental health, their emotions, you know, daddy or mommy issues, they never get that platform to really speak because if they do, they get bashed down. So I feel like that's why I was like, you know what, that's why I suggested maybe have another male besides yourself, you know, so we don't attack you, to speak about it. So so that was my whole thing. But like I said, it's just one of those things that it brought a lot to light, you know, a lot of things that people don't think about. But I guess that's pretty much my piece of it.
You had a lot there. You basically,
I did. My bad.
You basically hit like every point in the TikToks. I mean, so which one I would say did the female Stitch apply? Did you relate to that one more so?
I did relate to the Stitch more because of the fact of how she broke it down, because I was like, I do that, I did that, still doing that. So it was one of those where I was just like, fuck?
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta change this. So
Krista, what you think about that? You know, Michelle said a lot there, but did anything stand out from that?
At one point I was definitely trying to justify like, oh, well, it's something you do when you're young, or, you know, maybe not looking deeper into it. I think the mommy daughter topic is extremely serious and enough people don't talk about it, kind of like, you know, like joining in with Michelle with that idea. But you know, a lot of that self-love, you know, there's a part of me that's like, well, how long can you blame someone else for too? As I listen to it, where, you know, that accountability factor and how you want to live your life and have relationships with the people around you truly falls on you. So it was a deep video. I definitely was very happy that you invited me here to speak about that topic. Look, I joined a women's group digging real deep into that topic, because there's a lot of healing in that relationship with understanding your mother's journey, maybe your grandmother's journey. Like, it gets deep. So shout out to Goddess on the Go. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting topic. And I think that the more you dig into it and get to know, for understanding reasons, really, especially as we get older, that's like one of the biggest keys for women healing, period.
Steff, talk to me.
Hi guys. I think that the way you articulated your words, Michelle, and the way that that woman spoke her words has a very different posture, and it's showing a very different mental place. And I feel that mommy issues are real, but I do believe that man was speaking directly into mommy issues, and that woman was speaking directly into her adult experience that she doesn't seem to be taking much responsibility for at all. However, identification and awareness is the first step. So I pray Kayla, I think her name is, gets therapy. And because she's so aware already, get a coach as well to be able to integrate and pull those things together and move upwards. Because I'm sorry, now with everything I'm saying with compassion and love, but I'm going to keep it very real. No, you're self-destructing and you're pointing the finger. And if you're able to identify it, you can change it. There is a verse in the Bible that says, he who can see and chooses to unsee is then truly blind. When you have acknowledgement, when you take something, when it's the subconscious, you're a victim. When it comes to the conscious, you have power. That's what taking your power back comes from. And if you're going to keep pushing it into the subconscious, like you ain't got no knowledge about it, it is going to be a hamster wheel of destruction for her. And I think there is something very dangerous, and this I'm going to say with my whole chest, because I have a daughter. Michelle, you said you have a daughter. I don't think it's good, and I really feel this way. I don't think it's good for people to get on their phones and be like, hey, abuse cocaine, be erratic, not be able to keep a man, do this, that, and the third, sleep with a lot of people. She didn't say that, but go hot and cold. She literally is voicing bipolar symptoms.
Yeah.
Right.
And then literally says, I'm manic and then I'm depressive. I go from 0 to 100. And that's a learned behavior. And I want to say, speaking to, and I work on it. But what she's saying is all these things are normal. And I'm so tired of thinking having compassion for people that are struggling with things is being coded as normalizing. Because I'm sorry, I don't want my daughter, and nor does Michelle want her daughter, nor does Krista want her child feeling like this. So how do we do it? We correct it. And I'm sorry, but I want to say one last thing. What Michelle brought up is not, I don't want to classify it as, first of all, I'm proud of you and I'm sorry. You know, I am, because that's hard and I can relate. And you having to humble yourself and say, I'm sorry to your daughter. Your mother never did that. And if she did, they were empty words, but you're not going to do that. And what that is breaking generational curses. That is not mommy issues, daddy issues. Because if we want to get into the real meat of mommy and daddy issues, it goes into the imbalanced masculine and the imbalanced feminine. That's what it will really come down to. So, and yes, with Michelle particularly, it is mommy issues, but I'm saying to say all those behaviors is mommy issues, you're deflecting. You're deflecting and not taking responsibility for your mental health. So when that woman has children, if she doesn't take control of it and get herself some therapy and get herself into some integrational work, she's going to pass it on to her daughter. And that's another self-destructing, self-doubting, self-hating woman walking this earth. And that's one more too many to me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Agreed. Michelle, you have two sisters, right?
Yes, sir.
What's their relationship with your mom?
So they get along with her, but my older sister literally cut ties to the point that she moved to Texas. She does not call to check in on my mom at all. My younger sister literally lives in the same building as I, and my younger sister only goes to see her if she receives a package delivered to my mom's house. But again, like my younger sister's a little bit overweight. My mom is the type, when she comes home, you're too fat, you need to lose weight. So my sisters are like, why am I coming over? Like, I'm coming over to see you. Why are you body shaming me? You know, so the three of us has gotten to the point where we've become so disconnected with her. And I remember when my grandmother passed, because my grandmother raised me. So to me, my grandmother is my mother. I have her name tattooed on me. My mom's like, well, where's my name? And I'm like, you weren't there. So, you know, it's like, so to me, my grandmother always told me, heal your relationship with your mom, heal. And it's to the point where even when I decided to enroll in therapy to get help, my mom's like, oh, that's for crazy people. You don't need that. Like just bashing me. And I'm like, well, why don't we do a session together? Like, and then she's like, I'm not crazy. And I'm like, you know what? And it was just those flags. I'm just like, it's just never gonna work.
The reason I asked was because you said that you resemble your father.
My sisters look, so both of my sisters look like my grandmother, which is my mom's mom.
But that's why I was gonna bring that point up, because I've seen, obviously I know your sisters, and you said you resemble him, and that might be the reason why, but they don't, and she still has, you know, so
still has issues, but not as much as how it is with
me.
And
but she still is who she is with them, and they still feel the way too. So it's more than just the resentment of your dad. It's more to it, and I'm not going to go in on your mom, but it's more. There's more to it. Yeah, there's more to it. It's not just that she sees your dad and you, and it's just you. Because it'd be one thing if it was just you, as you know, and the other ones she was good with, and it's all. There's no standout. So the common denominator is her.
Right, and I think one of the biggest things was when my grandmother passed away. My mom's an only child. She didn't want to take like responsibility. So that fell on me. My sister was in Texas, my youngest sister. I was like, all right, whatever. So I stepped up to play the next of kin role. And it got to the point where once everything was done and I spoke to both of my sisters and I said, I'm not doing this. When she goes, I told my older sister, I'm like, you're next of kin. If you don't come up here to New York to handle it, I will not be there. They will handle her like a homeless person because I'm not doing it. And my younger sister was like, oh, and I was like, no, it's either you or Karen. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I feel like I feel like after the fact that I tried, it's just one of those things that I was like, I need my peace. I need my peace. I need my serenity, not only for myself, but for both of my children, you know, especially with my daughter, you know, so to me, it's just like, I was like, I'm like, and that's not going to fall on my daughter either. The way it fell on me to handle my grandmother, it's not going to fall on my daughter to handle her grandmother. Like, absolutely.
Real quick, Krista, go ahead. Krista.
I want to jump in real quick. I think Steff had touched on saying it was a generational curse. And I don't know if I'd necessarily say curse. I know in your context you did, but for opening up the point, generationally, you really have to look at people, where they come from, whatever standards, whatever was exposure, education, all that stuff plays a big factor. My mother got very upset because while she was in college, her dad changed her major because he felt women should be teachers or nurses. Now we're talking like, you know, early 70s, you know, you as a student, your parents could do that, right? Because those certain laws weren't established at that point. And, you know, my mother would like voice frustration with her to me about what her dad did, but I was just like, you know, like our grandfather fought in World War II, and you know, he was one of the first Black men to graduate with his master's from Columbia, and he was a Q, and there was like certain energy. I said, I really feel that he loved you, and he really thought he was doing the best he could. And there's a part of that, I think, as you get older and you like reflect back on decisions, whatever your parents did and how they helped shape you, that you know, to some extent, like really being able to take yourself also and, you know, to understand what they come from and where they're coming from with all of this stuff, because it's very easy to be angry. And for me, with whatever issues have been thrown my way, and I'm, you know, I love my parents, they love me too. But we all have issues. And at the end of the day, it got to a place where I was like, okay, how is Krista going to figure out her happiness? And once I figured that out, all this other stuff, I'm like, all right, let me figure out the empathy part, you know, so I could kind of dig deeper, because that's the only way I was going to be able to really get to that next level of relationship with both of my parents, is to understand their story. So
good point. Tiff, let's get your thoughts on this. You know, be quiet a little bit.
I mean,
let's talk about it.
Like I'm just listening to Michelle talk, and I just related to so much. I know I got mommy issues. I know I got daddy issues, but I've like took accountability. I don't want to say accountability, but I really took some time to reflect in order to figure out how I can get this weight lifted off of me throughout life. Like, you know, I didn't have the best relationship with my mother. Although I love my father so much, there was a lot of things that maybe was not proper way to raise a child on certain things. Like, you know, he made me very tough. Like you know, I was my father's favorite. So although he wanted to protect me in some way, he tried to make me tough in a sense of like, this one boy pushed me off a bike and I came in the house crying, and he made me want to fight this kid, and if I didn't beat him up, he would beat me up, type of thing. Like that's how, like, you know,
and that's typical son type stuff.
I felt that that's my dad. Yeah, so it's like yeah, so it's like with my mom, like I was her third girl, so by the time, and then she had my little brother, so she always wanted a boy, so by the time she got her boy, she could care less about me. So that's why I ended up like being my dad's favorite. And I had a lot of issues. So when I lost my dad and my mom kind of just latched on to like another man, like I always felt in my soul, I was like, man, my biggest fear is to like end up like her. I don't want to just like keep marrying people or like getting involved with people and just being so focused on that man and seeing nothing else but the man, not even the children, not even like, you know, I personally myself, like I watched my mom, I feel like the men she was with like took life from her. Like, you know what I mean? Like the last man she was with, like she was so focused on making this man happy. And I felt like she knew she probably messed up on a lot of things, but because she had already made her bed, that was it. Like she had to live that life with him. Like, even if it meant her last breath was not worth living because of him, you know what I mean? And I had to take it a step further back because I'm like, you know, my mom wasn't the one to be like, oh, I love you. And, you know, so throughout years, people always felt like, you know, I was used to people leaving me. So to me, it was normal. It's like, oh, okay, you know, you're only here for a little bit. Like nobody really felt I was worth being around for. So there was a lot of issues. And even now still that I constantly have to like work on and, you know, go talk to someone about, because there's a lot of things that trigger me with people and things. And it's like, you know, I never got closure from my mom, because just like with you, I couldn't go to my mom and be like, you know, all the things you did to me. It's like she was so cold inside. But then I had to realize her mom, my grandmother, you know, I used to call her like Hitler's best friend because, man, that lady was just evil. Wow. She was evil. Wow. Damn. Honestly, man.
It's like you look like the type that would fuck with Hitler. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, proclamation.
Man, like it's so. And I always used to tell people, I said I learned about the world before I even got into the world, and that was just in my household. Like my grandmother
didn't care for me because I look like my dad. Like Michelle said, like I look just like my dad. And I think that was a reminder for my mom, even when I died, because the man she was with, like it was torture for them. Like they seen him and it's like they couldn't escape that. And then my grandmother, you know, my dad was like kind of leaning on the dark side of his skin. And because I look like him, she kind of disowned me at a young age. So even as an adult, like when I would come over, it wasn't like, oh, there goes my granddaughter. It was kind of like, oh, hello, lady. You know what I mean? Like I was like somebody borrowing sugar. So like the family dynamic was really terrible. So I had to understand my ways in certain like relationships just for myself on like, how can I move forward? How can I be a better person? How can I break what was trying to break me down and be a better person and be a light in this world? You know what I mean? So I had to reflect a lot of things. I had to do forgiveness without even getting closure and answers on a lot of things. I had to just realize, okay, every day I get, that's a chance for me to not be like them. You know what I mean? Because I'm my own person. So it's like, if I sit here and I hold on to all the pain that these people have caused me, and can I truly be myself, or am I going to be blinded by people who are no longer in my life or want to even be in my life?
That's deep.
So
that's deep.
Yeah.
The thing, Steff, you brought it up about the differences between the TikToks. You know, the woman that you know did the stitch, she kind of spoke to, you know, kind of, you know, give an excuse to what she does now. Whereas the gentleman the original version of the TikTok, he spoke to, you know, young age. You know, how a lot of people say, you know, for women, you know, your father is like your first boyfriend, the first male figure that you look at towards, you know, who you're gonna go to. Your woman, your mom is like your first like friend, or the woman that you see with their dynamic, what a relationship looks like. How does my mom get treated? How is she take if a man says such and such? So you and as children, a lot of people don't you know, they don't give enough credit to kids for what they see. Even if they're playing cars, banging Tonka trucks and Nintendo Barbie dolls, they're hearing and absorbing still. Even when you think, oh no, they're not hearing us. They over there playing that game.
Nah,
You know what I'm saying?
you
And
know
even
what?
today
It's
now
crazy
with
you say that.
kids. Yeah, you know, now more
You
so
know what? I'm gonna
kids.
tell you a story real quick. Like when I was younger, like because my dad died when I was 10. So when I was younger, like my dad knew my mom was having an affair. So I knew divorce was coming. And he came to me, and I swear before he could even finish the words, I'm like, I'm coming with you. Don't leave me here. You know what I mean?
That's
Because I
heavy
knew
for 10, like
Tears come out.
that's heavy for a kid. Like that's a
I'm
lot.
like, don't leave me here. Like,
Oh man.
no, it was serious. I was like, just don't leave me here. Like, I'm coming with you, because I knew and it happened when he left me, like I didn't have a childhood. Like I had a very rough life, even up until adulthood, because of the things that I faced mentally. I was not a kid anymore. You know what I mean? And they took that from me.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, I feel like our parents prior, they go by the motto, I just feel like, turn the other cheek. Don't talk about it. What stays in the house stays in the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you gotta make this image be that you're this perfect
That's
family.
like a
We're good over here.
generational thing too, though. Like depending on where you were raised, specifically in the United States. I don't know where everyone else is from on the call, but you know, like if you were born in the 1950s, it was different.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's a lot of things that they went through, like they didn't heal from. Like, you know, I saw another TikTok, and I probably should have showed this, but they said, you know, the growth of the generations before us, right? Their ceiling is our floor. Where they stopped,
that's
100%. Where they stopped, we're now starting, and then we're gonna have a new ceiling, and our kids vice versa, and vice versa. And it's like, how tall do you want to make your ceiling to be? How filled are you going to put your room in? Like, are you going to open your windows and let things out? Are you going to open your door to let new things in? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just interesting that like what we have to break and heal from and feel and just take on in order to change all that and be a better person. And then sometimes you don't even know if you're being a better person, because it's like, who do you really have to compare to, or what do you have to compare to when you're starting brand new?
And that's one of the things that's what I was alluding to when I said, like, you know, the kids and what they absorb in the home. And then nowadays the internet and social media is so accessible for kids. and it's a lot to take in.
Mhm.
You know, so what we learned in the household, kids is getting a world exposure, and they're getting, you know, hot girl summer, bad bitches, and you know what a thug is for a man, and it's like, mom is this, but everybody else seems to be this, and should I be that way, or you know, and now we're getting a lot of women that I've noticed that resent their mom because their mom might have been old fashioned, you know, take care of home and da da da. But they're like, but today's woman is doing this, and this, and I'm modern. I want to be like that now. And you know, we see something like that going on. Yeah, Steph, what you gonna say?
I want to bring up a different version of mommy issues, if you will, and I want
So before we do that, I want to get Jared's perspective first. Close because you know we got him here. I don't want him to sit here dozing off.
Jared is just like, damn, all these girls are messed up.
But talk to me, Jared. What you got? What have you heard? What do you how do you feel about this right now?
Hey, y'all fucked up. No, I'm playing. No, I don't want to say that. Well, we all have issues. No,
I
we
love
all
that.
have issues, though. We all have issues. You know, it's not even just, you know, there's a lot to. Well, I've heard a lot, so there's a lot to peel into that. But, you know, I've seen it in my own space. You know, I definitely would say that I have both to a degree. But I think everybody has, you know, at least one or both. You know, we have resentment towards certain things that we've seen, certain actions. And I think that's just as a kid growing up, you know, you just see things in your life that you just don't like. You don't know how to grapple with it. So you just maneuver, you know, and you just hold on to certain things. Now, for me personally, I'm not the best communicator. There are a lot of times when I want to say certain things, but I know I have an attitude about it, or I don't know how to communicate or converse, you know, so I'll just let shit go. I'll just let shit go. And I'll let that shit feed up inside me. And I'll just, you know, be my own little battery for it.
Yes, did you see your dad do that or no? Is
Well,
this
so
just you?
Good question.
Well, it's it comes to a few things. So like my grandma, she wasn't, God rest her soul, she wasn't the best person at a lot of times. She treated my grandpa like shit. And I'm a grandpa's boy more than anything. Like he was my everything. He's tattooed on my arm. But my grandma was toxic as shit to him. So I had a lot of issues when it came towards her. I would see my mom and my grandma always get into it. And sometimes it was about me. It was about control. Who fights for control over me? And at times I have issues with a lot of times I have issues with my mom. Like I'm her caretaker, but at the same time, like there are certain things I just don't say to her because we already have like at odds, you know, kind of like I can't say if I want to voice my opinion, she doesn't really want to hear it. Well, not so much she doesn't want to hear it, but she's strong in her opinions at times too. So we'll just combat, and I just rather just leave it be. It's funny, like I don't know if anybody read my hoodie, but in the kind of I want to go to what Michelle was saying. You know, when Michelle was talking about her when her dad left, you know, you saw how much happier he was and so forth. Like honestly, a lot of things comes down to what's the cost of everything, you know, and that's kind of what the hoodie really saying. If it costs you your piece, it's too expensive. And I think that's what it comes down for a lot of things. Like
message.
What is it really costing us? You know, these mommy issues or daddy issues that we have. Like my dad left 3 times over. You know, man's has the, I don't want to try to put his whole business out there like that, but you know, he's been more of a family person than another family than, you know, his original family. So, you know, I got my own issues with my dad too. Things I don't talk about with him. You know, I feel like at 37, maybe going on 38, is it really worth it? I'm at peace for the most part in my life. Is it really necessary going to that level with him? To me, not really. I'm in therapy. I'm an advocate for mental health and wellness. I do therapy. I talk to my therapist about things. that I may not talk to my mom. And he's even a proponent saying, talk to your mom, have a conversation, sit down with her and give her 10 minutes. Y'all just, share a meal together, talk. Because we really don't do that. Like, I'm getting to that point where I'm trying to do that, but I haven't. Now, as for why, it could be time, it could just be my energy, it could be I just don't feel like dealing with it, or me in my own head preconceiving what the result is going to be and don't want to deal with it. How does that translate to other relationships that I have with people? I don't know. Everything is case by case. I don't really have, like when it comes to like relationships, with my friends or anybody that I'm dating, I kind of put things in maybe in a similar space, which is just comfort. Having people around that I care about, that I want to communicate with and talk to, but at the same time, conflict and conflict resolution are still a building thing that I'm trying to do on. But I think what all the ladies have said, in terms of mom issues and such, or both, if you want to go into that spectrum, there are a lot of things that you've seen when you're younger, and you're not trying to repeat that. Goes to the generational curse aspect. You want to. I think everybody who has a child wants to do better than what they've seen before. Not everybody's built for that too. There are a lot of bad mothers out there. There are a lot of bad dads out there. There are a lot of fucked up kids out here. A lot of kids going to celebrities and social media more than they are their own parents. But hell, sometimes what you see in the household reflects what you see on social media too. Nobody's checking nobody. There's a word that nobody likes. There's an R and an A that nobody likes to talk about: responsibility and accountability. Nobody likes to go into those two topics. Yeah, we've seen some fucked up shit in our life. Yeah, we've been hurt by a lot of things in our life, but we're accountable to ourselves and responsible to ourselves and how we treat other people. If we know something's not right and we're still acting upon it, that's on us.
Like Krista, you have pointed that out too. Like, like if you no, I think Steff said it. Matter of fact, one of y'all said it, but just saying it is one thing. But now that you are aware of, what's going on, what are you doing about it? Because I believe like every meeting, AA meeting, drugs, this, the first step is to acknowledge it. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm an alcoholic. Or I'm a this. The acknowledgement is step one. All right, there's a problem here. There's something here. I need to work on it now. But a lot of cases, people just say, "Oh, that's just the way I am. Take it, hate me or love me or deal with it. What you gonna do?" That's not the right way to, it can't just be. It's just what I am.
Look, I just told my sister that, who has a completely opposite relationship with my parents than I do. My baby sister, I'm the oldest. I was like, it's going to be really hard for you to figure out any romantic relationship until you figure out mom and dad. And I mean, the level of like anger sometimes, and I'm like, my sister, she don't have like Instagram or nothing, so I'm just saying what I'm saying.
I'm gonna put her on blast.
Put all her business out there. Put it all out there.
She can watch YouTube though.
But she was really, that's true. Really like, angry. And I'm like, well, how are you gonna figure this out when you can't see eye to eye with your partner, Rachel? Like, it doesn't work like that. And some of that is like that growing up process too. But I think like what everyone's saying, like, well, what level of happiness do you want then? Because how long are you going to let this stuff affect you? Because it can turn into other issues like anxiety, depression. Like there's so many things that can happen out of just harboring these feelings. And especially with our parents, it's like, it's detrimental. And I had one therapist say, everybody needs therapy from their parents. Like that's like normal almost.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, those are the first, that's the first dynamic of adults that you've seen and experienced, and it's up to you to say I'm gonna be like or I'm not gonna be like. You know, I'm gonna do what they did or not gonna do what they did. Or
I swear to you, in my house, Paul, growing up, like we were the family. Everyone always thought we were like the Cosbys. Okay, like I came from that family, guys, where you know my parents easily were able to gloat as their first about daughter and their son and you know all these things like grades good, like everything was fine, but my sister completely different lens, even though we were raised by the same people. It's crazy how those experiences can shift. I think she's definitely more in touch with seeing my parents at more vulnerable states, you know, like retirement. It gets wild.
And that's a big thing too. The oldest and the youngest, or you know, who's experiencing the parents at which time. Because I could speak to my story. You know, my sister, you know, she's 5 years older than me, and you know,
and my sister and I have a 15-year age difference.
Right. So that's a generation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But you know, me and my sister, like obviously the oldest always experiences things, you know, and sometimes takes the protective role over the younger sibling too. You know what I'm saying? So me as the baby, I'm sitting there chilling. Whereas my sister might see things and say things and be like, this is what's going on here. And similar to what you said, Krista, my family was looked at as, oh, they're perfect. Everything's great, da da da. But in those walls, it wasn't perfect. You know what I'm saying? My father was hard. My father was hard to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And some of that has rubbed off on me. I admit, I am a hard person to deal with at times. And I'm also...
Oh, you're a teddy bear. I love you.
I mean, you know...
Yeah, I think you're so sweet.
But also my mom, you know, my mom was like someone that gives people chances. So I'm also someone that give people chances so many times. So I got a little bit of both of them, the caring and the, you know, saying the toughness, and you know, I got a mixture of both. But when I was younger, I really absorbed a lot. I was again, like I said, little kid playing Nintendo, but I'm hearing, you know what I'm saying? I'm hearing what's going on. And my sister, you know, she was dealing with what was going on, and she took like a protective role over me. You know what I'm saying? So me and my sister, we're so close because she was like, you know, another mom to me. You know what I'm saying? So when mommy and daddy are arguing or what have you, she got me. So I'm good. So I was protective. And then as I got older, I started to realize what was going on more so. You know what I'm saying? And I got to decipher, you know, this, it's not perfect, and this isn't how it's supposed to be, but there's really no right or wrong in what a household looks like and what everybody else thinks it is. That, you know, oh, this is great, da da da.
Oh, there's right and wrong. It's okay. It's okay. There's definitely right and wrong in households. And
it's not though, because
that's made. Let me tell you, especially, and I'm gonna say this from a female perspective only. I've seen households where if the mother was hypersexual, daughters were by far like dealing with a lot of issues, like a lot. Especially sexually, whether it was just different levels of sexual molestation, like crazy stuff. But it definitely, I've seen certain themes of when mommy's too hypersexual in front of her kids, specifically her daughters, that there's other stuff happening that's where I'm like, the wall.
Well, so let me explain. When I say there's no right or wrong, I mean, obviously there is a wrong. You know, there can be a wrong. However, there's no cookie cutter. There's no template that it must be like this.
There's no one size.
There's no one right. So there is a spectrum to it. There is a blending of it. Yes, there can be an extreme that is like you should not be doing that in front of your kids.
The way my dad always explained it, which I think encompasses it, he's like, there's no handbook. There's no
there's no handbook to it. Yeah.
To raise a child, but there's an absolute wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely a wrong way.
Think that.
Yeah, definitely a wrong way. And you know, we always think about like, you know, some of the toughest fathers out there in the world, you know what I'm saying? Joe Jackson, you know what I'm saying? Venus and Serena's pops, you know what I'm saying? We think about those hard dads and we look at who they created.
Don't name all the Jehovah's Witness daddies.
But I mean, then we look at who their children were, and it's just like, but they'll tell you it was hard growing up in that house though. It wasn't, you know, this was something that was driven. This was something that was, you know, from young, and they lost a childhood because of it. You know what I'm saying? And certain things like that. And it's one thing, and there's also that there's no father there. You know, so now you have, you know, single parent home or, you know, what have you, and then that dynamic of now the mom saying I'm doing both, and then that gets ingrained into, so this is how it's supposed to be, or this is what it is, and it's tougher. So there's so many layers to it. There's so many layers to it. But Steff, you said you wanted to break down some of the layers and what the differences are. So
well, with I could say with my upbringing, I have two parents that do love me very much. They're divorced, they're not together, but they do both love me very much, and I love both of them. But me and my father were having a conversation yesterday, and I haven't always had a great relationship with my father. It's the best it's ever been right now, ever in my life. And I thank God for that, because I had to do a lot of healing to get there. And, I grew up in a very traditional, my dad made a lot more money than my mom. My mom cooked the dinner, but my dad and my parents raised me to be independent and to be strong. And my dad taught me to be tough. My dad was hard on us. My dad would say, you mean she hit you last? Get your ass outside, let's go. Like, he was that father. And somebody, and Daddy, I love you, because I send him podcasts someone to look at, but because he's proud of his little girl, even though I'm 46. But I had very much so a relationship, and I'm sure anybody with whoever parent it is can relate in some capacity. It's like he gave me the world with one hand and slapped me with the other.
Mm.
Yo, I want to cry saying that on this, because that's a real thing. And like, as my daughter's she's approaching preteen, there was a point in time in 2019 I completely cut off my father because he blew up on me. My dad was very harsh, like I said, and he blew up on me, and my daughter was 8 at the time, and I was not okay with it. And I sat there and I took it like a shameful 12-year-old. And then I remember shaking, and when I left his house, this is gonna sound so pussy, but when I left his house, I fucking threw the water bottle at his door, and I just screamed, fuck, at the loudest I can, but it was such a delayed reaction. I stopped talking to my father for a year. My brother said, because we all commence, we all have a level of daddy issues, but I'm going to bring up, I promise I'm going to get to mommy issues because it ties together. But my brother once asked me, my older brother, because I forgot who said, I think it was Michelle, completely disassociate. He's the one that lives in Detroit, is always away from my parents. He's the one, came out as gay in the 90s. So there was a little turmoil there, things like that. And, he's like, do you want to take this as an opportunity? I'll do it with you. Do you want to sit down with daddy and tell him everything you're feeling? And I thought about it. And this was like a big moment of growth. This is why I'm sharing this with you guys. I thought about it and I said no, because there is nothing I want to do. And I'm speaking specifically to Michelle because I feel like this might relate to her. Like, there's nothing I want to do to make him feel like a bad father, because he wasn't a bad father. And I just need to handle what it's done to me, because I always knew deep down inside, he was doing the best he could. So now we fast forward to my daughter's 11 years old, and the way he would go off, the way he would leave the room and come back and be like, end this. And I'd be like, what the fuck? Why are you still yelling at me? Like, well, at this point, you're just amping yourself up. I see it in me. And it's coming from a space of anxiety, a space of fear, where I don't want my daughter to go through what I go through. So if she missteps away from what I'm telling her to do, she might go through that. And thus, as a parent, I get the opportunity to do something my dad never did, which is take responsibility and choose not to project my fears on my fearless daughter. And it's not easy, because the way my father is embedded on me. But one thing my father did do, he always wanted us to do better than him. And he has truly, on his back, he said to me yesterday, you took the opportunity to step on my back and do better. And I'm so proud of you. And that's not something that comes out of my father's mouth. Where a conflict, so I do say that to say, sometimes is not always the right time to have the conversation. Jared, Krista touched on it. Michelle, you touched on it. There got to be a way, and those ways are specific to each person. This has nothing to do with mommy or daddy, where you're able to disassociate emotion with, or work through the emotion with that person on your own, so that when you do present it to them, whether they're able to take it well or not is not going to penetrate your spirit. It's not going to affect you. And then it comes to my mother, where my mother just forgives and forgives and forgives, and she's this woman and she's this anchor, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be an anchor, I'm trying to fly. But I feel like that's a part of the generational conditioning, where I'm trying at 33 years old to balance. My father made me tough. I want to go here. My father made me tough. I needed to be fucking tough in my 20s. I couldn't be the soft woman I am today in my 20s, because a lot of shit has happened to me in my 20s that has caused me to have the soft heart I have today. And that's where I could look to my mom as a role model. But then sometimes she takes, you know, Michelle, where you're like, I get these traits from you, and you're not doing a good job, like, understanding that I'm trying to have a moment where we're talking about it openly so we could solve it. And you're just putting it back on me. Meanwhile, I'm the one that had the fucking balls to come and have this goddamn conversation with you. You're not going to gaslight me. And then you feel like the dumbass. You feel like that's gaslighting. You feel like the person that got the issue. And you really got to learn to protect yourself before you have those conversations. But lastly, if this speaks to anybody, you gotta forgive. You gotta learn how to forgive. And if that means taking a year off from that person to cleanse your spirit from their shit, to unlearn what they taught you, because the truth is, I see a lot of myself in my father, and he was the monster my whole life, and I can't bear with my daughter seeing me as the monster. You gotta do the work, and you gotta forgive those people, and you gotta see with eyes of, I'm not saying you gotta forgive them, but if you do, it's gonna be a big jump in healing. And you gotta, you know, be okay with what Tiffany said that, and I related. I've forgiven without the closure. I've had to let things go, knowing that's what taking my power back looks like in that particular situation. It's not going to look the same in every single situation, but some people are so, and this is what I saw in this woman's video, some people are so married to their pain and to being a victim. Why change? Why change because I'm entertaining a comfortable cycle? It might not be the cycle I want.
So they don't want the change.
But it's comfortable. And they'll sit there and say, I want to change so bad. I want to change so bad. But then they create videos like this, and this is what they're talking about, and they're deflecting the blame, and they're never growing. And that in itself is toxic. And when you're 29, you're going through your Saturn return. So shit might be really raw for her right now. If you believe in astrology, shit might be
girl.
Shit might be raw for her right now. Her life might be crumbling from under her. Honey, forgive them. Forgive them. Work within yourself. Her specifically, isolate and get your ass into therapy, baby.
And I feel like even the biggest part with my dad, because he knows how I am with my mom. My father has begged me, forgive your mom, build a healthy relationship. It's gotten to, because like I said, I'll do anything for my dad. Like I'll take a bullet for that man. And he literally would say, like literally with tears in his eyes, do it for me. And back then, where I, a couple years back when I was so bitter with my mom, I was like, I can't do it. I was like, that's the one thing I can't do for you. I was like, I won't. And I feel like after the way things transpired, after my grandmother passed away, the way things happened, just seeing my relationship with my son and seeing my relationship with my daughter, and then seeing how my sister, took such a big turn. Like she's in a healthy, happy 15-year relationship with her husband, completely different dynamic from what my parents had, and I look at her and I was like, damn, I want that, and then I see like some of my friends who have healthy relationships, like, with their parents. And I'm like, I want that. And it's like, that was the opening call where like, when I came to terms with my chaos, my havoc, like everything, like the messy Michelle that I am, when I came to terms with that and acknowledged it and took that step of saying, I'm going to join this group to better this. I'm going to join therapy to better this. I'm going to make peace with myself, for myself and for my children, because priority are my kids. After my kids is whoever my partner is. And then after that, whoever else falls in line. And I feel like doing this journey and doing this on my own, and yes, I'm stubborn as fuck, I'm a bull, and I embrace it. But it's one of those things that, you know, having another big thing that has helped me is having a strong partner in the sense of like holding me accountable, giving me that tough love. Though I'm like, listen, I'm not built for tough love because my daddy gave me tough love. So that gave me daddy issues. So I don't want tough love. I was like, I need you to be a little softer with me. So those little things, it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, I've seen so much more growth in my life in the last 4 years than I have had in the last 15 years of my life, trying to like, you know, gather myself.
That's big.
Which is huge. It's huge. And
Krista, go ahead. What was on your mind, Krista? I know you want to jump in there real quick.
I just wanted to jump in and say that was like another generational difference too. Like everyone on this call is like, yeah, I'm okay with therapy. And like, I think my parents come from that, like, you know,
I don't believe in therapy.
Pray it away. And
my mom thought it was a joke when I told her, I was like, listen, I was diagnosed with ABCD. And then she's like, no, that's nothing. She's like, and I'm like, no, this is real. Like, this is really real. So,
and we as a generation on this call have to break these cycles because, and I have asked my daughter when we went through changes too, do you need therapy, mommy? What do you need? Because I want her to know, even when you can't talk to me and daddy, there is other things. Sometimes the problem
I give my daughter that option all the time.
And that's why we gotta change that, you know, facilitate that acceptance to getting mental health. So I'm glad you touched on that. I mean, a lot of people have, so I'm proud of everybody in here.
And even this is therapeutic too, you know, letting it out. You guys are being open with the world. I know I don't have a huge following, but you know, just being able to say this, I'm happy. I'm glad for y'all. I'm glad to see y'all, you know, breaking out, growing. You know, this is big.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I told you, like it's very humanizing because even like I said, like I may know y'all like through Paul, obviously podcasts, or even through like, you know, like acquaintances and stuff like that. But even like to feel what, you know, what Tiff said was definitely, the tears were coming. And I'm like, my makeup. I was like, you know, so it's one of those things that like where you're having such a heartfelt conversation with real people and like, you know what, I'm not the only one going through this. Like this is a real matter. Like people are going through this, and it's definitely a great, you know, I would say thank you, Paul. This is a great way to expose this and really put that platform out there that, you know, we're not alone. Like people go through this, you know, and I really appreciate, you know, I have mad love for you. So I really appreciate that.
Well, you know, a lot of us, you know, because I remember, I mean, I was gonna do a shameless plug, not for me, but you know, for, you know, you were saying earlier that, you know, a lot of guys don't have a space to talk about it. And I was like, well, you know, we have this. So, you know, you do have this show and other things like homie call, whatever. You got to get something up your mind. But
Michelle knows, she calls me all the time saying stuff, and I'm not trying to hear that right now. No, but I do. She knows I do listen. I do talk to her, and that's one of the reasons why I started this whole thing, because I've had conversations with each one, you know, all of you guys. So I know you guys, and I know how y'all give it up, and I know, you know, what we go through and all of that. We've had these conversations. So I'm like, yo, this is real stuff that, you know, like Michelle said, people need to see it and know, like, I'm not the only one going through this. So I feel that. And you guys, I see y'all linked up. Y'all be liking each other pictures on social media and stuff now. Like, I love it. Like, to be the conduit of that and friendships and growth. And then now, you know, you don't have to just reach out to me. Now you know this person or you know that person. It's like, hey girl, I want to know something. Can I ask you a question real quick? You don't have to ask me because I don't want to know about all the feminine stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, now you got a woman you can talk to, or now you got, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's different dynamics. We come from different, you know, walks of life, different places, different boroughs, different states, races, ethnicities, all of that. And the stories are very similar, you know, and we all got a piece that we've all felt, that each one of us have said, like, I felt that, like, I get that, I relate to that, or I was thinking that, I didn't know how to articulate it, or, you know what I'm saying? And that's why we here, you know what I'm saying? This show, I think it's the greatest thing on YouTube right now, on TV in general. Like, whoever created the show is like freaking awesome. You know, just seeing people, real people, having real conversations. Like, this is just awesome. Like, I love this show. Like, wow, like, you know, this is dope. But words, music, dance, the three elements of communication. The words are what you say, the music is how you say it, the dance is the body language, all very important. Like Michelle said, you know, the time and the place for that conversation. You were aware enough to know we cannot have this conversation at home because there will be tables moved and furniture breaking, and we might need to go, you know. But again,
Flair chops are going to be going
yeah,
side
so
to side.
that awareness is already a big step. That you know, that understanding of who you are, who she is, how that conversation is gonna go. That's step. You know, that's a big move, and it shows your maturity. You know, where she may still need some growth, maturity, but having that conversation, it's up to her now to absorb it, and you know where she's gonna go from there. Like you said, she's older woman now. She's setting her ways. She got grandkids now. Is she gonna want to change for them? That's all on her now. You did your part. You know, your older sister, she dipped. She's like, I don't even want to have that conversation. She did, but you did it your way. And at this point now, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really, you know, Steff, you had that conversation with your dad. You know, y'all went through that, you know, in recent times too. So, you know, even now, you had to have that moment where it was like a final straw kind of for you, and you felt like, all right, this is how I feel. This is what it is. Sometimes you got to get that off your chest, that burden. And
I never had a conversation with him.
Oh, I just had that falling out.
What I did was I took my time apart to where he couldn't hurt me anymore. I took knowledge of where he had power over me. I rewrote those stories and reapproached it to where, like, now I can see my dad as the man that loves me and not the man that's hurt me. And I think, you know, that was important for me. For those that can't have a conversation with their parents, you have to remember their triggers are bound to be similar to yours. And they're not going to want to talk about those things. The last thing people want to do is be told about themselves, especially by their child.
And that's
still believe that they're a child.
And that's a big thing too. Like, them still seeing my child. Like, why are you talking to me like this, or telling me how to fix me or what's wrong with me? You are my child. Stay in your place. And like Krista said, that's a generational thing too. That's, you know, it's like, we didn't talk back to our parents. What are you doing right now? And there's so many avenues and lanes, and you know, you gotta just find, you know, you gotta find your way to do it. Like we suggested, there's therapy, there's the conversations to have, you know, with your parent, and like you said, like you guys said, a lot of times we talk about daddy issues. This was good to finally talk about, you know, mommy issues and the mommy side of it. We all know moms get the praise. We you know, I love my mom. Hi, mom. You know what I'm saying? Mother's Day is big. Shout out to moms, and you know, off the rip, moms get, you know, Mother's Day is always packed. Restaurants, everything's packed. Father's Day might be a cookout or something somewhere. You know, but
yeah, and look, Paul, we only scratched the surface.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah, we did.
Clearly.
Absolutely.
Competitive,
yeah.
all that stuff. It gets crazy.
Yeah.
We gotta get me and Tiffany up
part
to New York so the six of us can go out and have some of this conversation over some.
Absolutely. When you in town, let me know. We do it in person.
I'm always down.
So, yeah, Jai, what you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, you know, like, you know, for Michelle, you know, like, you know, I've seen that aspect. You know, you're trying to have a conversation. You're trying, and you want to honor, you know, your dad's wishes to, you know, to try to piece up. But honestly, if it's going to cost you your peace, it's not
worth it. Absolutely. And I feel like, and I agree with you, because I think the biggest factor for me was that I know that my partner told me, he goes, God forbid the day your dad dies, he goes, I know for a fact that you're going to need all the mental help, support, emotional, spiritual, like, he goes, you won't be you anymore. And he goes, and I can't have you lose yourself because you still have two beautiful children. And then he said, because if your mom goes, he goes, what scares me is that you seem that you would be unfazed.
Right.
And that scares me. And I feel like I shouldn't be unfazed, because at the end of the day, this is the woman who brought me into this world, you know, like I should have some type of compassion, something, you know, and I think that was one of the big, again, like I said, it's an eye opener. Like I said, if it doesn't bring me peace, I know that it's not for me, but I know that at least that with my conscience, I know that I did my best. I did my part. And I know that my kids saw that I did what I could, you know?
Let me be honest with you, Michelle. Because like I said, there's a lot that I can relate to you.
Mhm.
And the twisted part about this is that I actually lost my mom. And I'm gonna share something with you. Like a year before she actually passed, and there was a whole point of me moving to Arizona to mend my relationship with her. And a situation happened between her husband, and me that caused me to stay away from her for a year. And the last phone call that I got was that she was in the hospital. You know, she had a stroke, she didn't make it. And then, you know, I lost her. So I had, like I said, there was a lot of closure that I didn't get. But, you know, people would be like, yo, and because of all the things she ever put me through, they would be like, do you miss her? And the sad reality was no. And for a while, like I used to question myself, like, should I feel bad? Like, you know what I mean? But the thing that kind of helped me grow and glow from that, I like to say, is because just because we're born into it doesn't mean it's supposed to be for us, right? Because the relationships you meant, yeah, they're a part of your DNA, but it doesn't like identify and make you who you truly are. You know what I mean? Not everybody is to go on with you in your journey, and that is even friends and, you know, family and friends included. That don't detach you from nobody. So, you know, like I said, I never really missed my mom after she was gone. Like the only time I would think about her is if somebody mentioned her, or I have to talk about her in conversations. But there was no love lost from her passing. The only thing that I regretted was time. But we had a very honest conversation after that incident, right? You know, when it first happened, that I had to let everything out and be honest from everything about childhood up until adulthood about how I really felt about a lot of things. And it hurt her. It hurt her. And I never saw my cry or even feel that way, because she was a tough cookie. You know what I mean? So like, you know, like I said, she wasn't the mom that was like, oh, I love you or whatever. My only thing to you is just don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel guilty about the fact that maybe, you know what I'm saying? If your mom does pass, it's whatever. Don't make people make you feel guilty about the way that you feel and what you stand on because of what you've been through.
You know, just to piggyback right quick over that, you know, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, it's easy to say that now about, you know, for anybody to say, you know, when she goes, you know, you may not feel as much. I thought the same thing about my grandma. And before she passed, you know, like she had cancer, and, you know, I still had like unresolved issues and so forth. And it got to the point where, you know, yeah, I never had that kind of closure either to address why was she the way that she was. But honestly, I accepted it because it came to the point where I had to be her caretaker. Like I had to, like, we for some reason we did in-house hospice, and I had to bathe her, feed her, try to, you know, do all that stuff. And honestly, at that point, all the ill will that I ever felt inside me left.
I believe it.
That shit just eradicated its own self. It just, every kind of feeling I felt, and I had a lot of anger and hate in my heart when it came to her, you know, for how she treats, you know, my grandpa, how her and my mom would battle, how her and I would battle. All that shit left the door, you know, as soon as that happened. And then when she passed, that shit hurt. So, you know,
a lot of people, I've had people that told me that they feel that I would be unfazed, but I've had a few who like really know me, and they're like, listen, Michelle, they're like, you could be as tough as you want to be. They're like, but you're like a marshmallow, like a toasted marshmallow. You have a hard little shell, but you're soft on the inside.
You know what
like,
it is?
They're like, you're gonna feel it when it comes to your mom, because despite everything, that's still your mom.
It's still your mom. And to speak, because Jared, you know, I was there. I know what you're talking about. I saw that. And you grew up, you know, and you had a relationship as tough as that relationship was with your grandma. You was around her a lot. And Michelle, you still have a relationship with your mom. Like you said, you know, she watches your son sometimes. She's close. So there's still a closeness there. And there's no, you know, you'll know when you get to that point how you're gonna feel that day, and the fact that you just had, you know, you reached out. You're still trying, you know, you're still trying to build on the relationship with her.
Right.
So
I mean, even
I don't think you're gonna be unfazed, but again, that's just
right. I mean, that's just like speaking in the moment. But I do feel like, you know, someone who I hold near and dear to my heart, you know, has seen my bullshit through thick and thin. And, unfortunately, his mom passed away. And then he told me, he's seen my mom and shit. And he told me, he goes, trust me, you're going to feel it. Make amends, get that peace with yourself, because then you're going to regret that. And then you're going to be mad at yourself.
But if you don't get that,
and I feel like those words sunk in. It definitely sunk in. And like I said, but I feel like a lot has transpired. And again, like I said, I am stubborn. I am stuck in my ways. I don't like change unless I'm the one making that change, and it's one of those things where, not to be funny, but when it comes to astrology and I look at my chart and I'm like, well, I do this because this is my moon sign and this makes perfect sense, and it's just little things like that where now it's kind of like, all right, hold on, let's just put that aside. But it's like, let's look at the facts. Like, what is going to make you grow? What's going to make you better? Like, what is going to bring you to where you want to be in your life, not only with yourself, but with your children, with your partner, with your family, and really soaking that in and just kind of saying like, all right, this is what I need to do. And it's kind of like, I'm a very outspoken person, Paul, I'm constantly talking, whether it's good or bad. Like, I don't have a filter when it comes to certain shit. And it's gotten to the point where I feel like I've started filtering myself within myself to kind of make those changes for the better, and to me, it's like, though people be like, oh, well, like people that I know, be like, oh, well, that's not really growth, this and that. But it's like, but when I'm showing you what I'm doing, they're like, oh shit, you are growing from that. You did learn from that. It took me time, but I'm getting there. So it's kind of like, just because you want me to grow at a faster pace because you know that I could do it, but it's kind of like, don't push me because I know what my limits are to grow, to get to that better place.
And we all have to come to a place where we realize learned behavior can be unlearned behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's one of the biggest things. Stuff we none of this is. We could blame it on just the stars or our DNA and stuff, but it was learned. It was stuff we experienced and seen. And with age and with time, we'll get new experiences and we'll see new things and we'll learn every fight isn't fight worthy. You don't have to say, you have to be unfiltered and say everything all the time, or we might need to have the conversation about this. So you just gotta, it's on you. And everyone that tells you how you're gonna feel, they're not you. You know what I'm saying? You'll know when you get to that point. When that moment happens, we're not wishing that on, right. To have a long life. We're not saying it's going, but when that time comes, you will deal with it how you are ready to deal with it at that time. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. Like I said, in recent times, you've been trying. You've reached out. You've had the dinner with it. You did it. You're trying. There's only so much you can do.
Because that'll create anxiety in itself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I feel it is one of those things. Like, I'm on enough medications for my depression, my anxiety. Like I don't need no more. Like I need to keep healing myself.
Yeah, you can't keep burdening yourself.
Like, honestly, you just have to piggyback off of Paul. Like I know everyone doesn't have maybe kids on the phone, but like our kids are gonna look at us crazy one day too for maybe whatever, psyche, the outspoken, whatever. And being able to really hear somebody else say, I can't do this, and how to like receive that. So like that level of openness and love and forgiveness. Look, I think Steff was talking about forgiveness. It is important to forgive. I was shaking my head the whole time, Steff, and you were like, it is important to forgive. And I was like, I agree. What are you going to do to move forward? Like you have to learn how to forgive.
Exactly. That's what I say to Michelle.
But Michelle, also forgive yourself, because there's things I'm sure that you certainly blamed yourself because of things that were done to you that, you don't even realize you're reflecting because it's what you've been, around. Right. So, before you can forgive anyone else, forgive yourself. You know what I mean? Like whatever you're carrying on you, that, whatever it is, just forgive yourself. Like that's the only thing I can say. Just forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself and forgive her for just being how she is. Like that's what I had to do. Like I said, I couldn't have a conversation. All I did was just forgive her. Like you just have to understand this is how she is. If you don't get that safe space, and that's just for any relationship, mom, dad, friends, whatever. If you don't feel you have that safe space, you have to take a look and to say, okay, I can't create this. This can't be created. Take a step back, reflect into yourself, find other spaces. Because if it's not a safe space, it's just what that is. But you just have to forgive her for who she is and hope that she gets to a point in her life where she changes to accept responsibility for herself, accountability for herself, and want to mend certain fences. Like, I think the more you distance yourself from people, it's either going to bring two ways. You're either going to blame more people, or you're going to have to look in the mirror and say, "It's myself." And she may always blame other people. It may always be deflection. And to you, you say, you know what? That's just how she is. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to be around it. You just have to forgive her for who she is, and then move, you know, how you feel is best appropriate.
And something, if I might just add on Michelle's situation, because I feel like it's such a great, vivid, you were open enough to share about it. Indeed. Something that really struck a nerve with me that happened to you is, and this goes for, 56,000 shares on this. Let's get some people really looking at what it looks like for actual health, mentally, you know, healthy and growth mindset adults to talk about this instead of just blurting out our symptoms and throwing our hands in the air. Let's share this episode because it's important. It really is. What you said, and I'm going to speak into it like over you right now. Like, don't let your mother speak into your worthiness, because, you know, you said something that hurt me. You said that she couldn't do it for me, but she can't even do it for my kid. And I felt that, and I know the offense of, I get it for me, but she's not even important enough. He's not even important enough. Yo, people can only, and yo, to anybody that's listening to this, people can only love as deeply as they can love themselves. So homeboy on the first video is absolutely right. A woman teaches her daughter how to love herself. And I am so proud of your healing journey. I'm so proud of you. You know, even though you might be in an uncomfortable space right now, like, I ask you because I felt the weight of what you said when you said that. Like, I was like, oh, geez.
Right, because to me, it put me to the point, like, if you couldn't do it for me, you can't do it for my kids, then I don't want my kids around you. Yeah. And then, of course, then the family's like, oh, you're being a bitch for taking away her grandkids. And it's kind of like, no, I'm protecting my kids from that.
And it's you setting boundaries, and people, and you hear about this all the time, these buzzwords, but they're not really buzzwords. You setting boundaries, people are going to have an issue with the growth because they can no longer handle you. They call me fucking crazy all the time, but I'm the deepest plugged into.
Oh, I'm the black sheep, crazy one of the family.
I'm so deep. Like, they try to gaslight me, and I'm just like, because I've been so good at being a people pleaser and a victim before. One thing I do want to say when it comes across the board with parents is understand the assignment. This is my belief system. Take it if it resonates, and if it doesn't, just leave it. But we are given our parents for a reason. We are, from the moment we are born, picking up things from our parents. We need to understand the assignment. That's why I went into, my dad taught me to be tough. And even though it damaged me, I needed that part of me. And being able to maneuver those things, and hell yeah, Michelle, using your astrology to understand that I'm a fire sign, so I may get a little more passionate. I need a grounding force. Otherwise, it's going to be an explosion. You know, that's some real shit. Elements, all of that, that's some real shit. And
I mean, I don't believe in that, but listen, like I said, I see my chart and I'm like, yo, I'm all over the place. Like,
yo, listen, I'm a fire sign, earth, moon, and air rising. I understand why I have anxiety because of that, but I also understand how I can undo it while being honest to myself. But forget astrology, you know, when it comes to this, like,
I felt that. I agree with you.
You know what I'm talking about, girl. So, but we are given our parents for a reason, and we're either going to repeat those cycles and our kids are going to be, you know, bound by that fate, or we're going to do better. And at least, you know, I hear a bunch of self-aware people, men and women, both Paul and Jared definitely showed how it shows up in men, how it shows up in other families as well. And I just pray this, you know, it may not get 59K shares, but I pray it lands on ears that need to hear it, because, you know, all of you
stitch it with the other guy's stuff, Paul.
Put a sound bite.
Well, before we go,
and with this episode, you can get Jared's sweater on the website. Just kidding.
Well, I don't want to get sued. Now you're gonna try to get me sued by whoever made that sweater. Like,
no, I'm just saying. So what? Jared's gonna have a special limited edition hoodie on your website. Okay.
I mean,
You can switch up the words a little bit.
Right, I gotta go through some legal stuff. I gotta just make sure it can be cleared. Gotta make sure it can be cleared. But before we go, I do want you to talk to the programs that you have, the Blooming to You, and what you do on social media and stuff. I don't want that to get missed as well. Since you're already talking about pushing this and get a lot of shares, I want you to share what you do as well with the people. So, go ahead.
Thank you. I am totally appropriate for this episode. I am a mindset and spiritual mentor. I have a 10-week program called Blooming to You, which is mind, body, and soul alignment. I also do shadow work coaching, which is great for stuff like this. I do 2-hour coaching calls, and I also am releasing something in 2 weeks called Heart of the Matter, which is opening your heart chakra, getting in the heart posture of gratitude, receiving, multiplying, and giving. And it's super magical. So I'm all about merging the mind, body, and soul and taking
I love that.
everything, and let's light this bitch on fire, guys, because we are the light. We are here for a reason. So thank you so much. Let's bloom.
Now, where can people sign up for the program? Is it on, like, is it too late to sign up, or
on my Instagram?
Which
you
is?
can reach out to me directly. It's at steffi.blooms.
All right. And
thank you.
No problem. And Krista, you said you are in some program stuff as well. You got some women's groups that you a part of?
Actually, I'm a part of a women's group, and actually specifically on this matter, I jumped in because I needed to do some work and figure out some relationships around me, and that turned into ancestral work. It turned into beating a chair and screaming and going crazy to get that anger out. It was actually really interesting, and it really shaped me as far as it got to a point in my life where I wanted to figure out, what does Krista want to be for herself, and what does she want to be for the rest of the world? So like women joining women's groups and getting that love from other women, I mean, you can't put a price on that. Right. It is so amazing. And shout out to you, Steffi, for doing stuff like that as well, because that is real work. It's real work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And shout out to you for doing the work. It's not easy.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Shout out to everyone that's taking the steps, doing the work, putting, like I said, step one, just acknowledging and then saying, now what? Where do I go from here? Not just saying, yeah, I got issues, I got problems, let's get drunk. Like, no, let's do something. Let's do something about it.
That was her solution. That was her solution.
Yeah. But like you guys said too, we've only scratched the surface. Obviously, I don't want to go on for hours and hours. We can, and
you need a part two.
We may get some more people into this. Anybody that's watching and you want to be a part of the continuation of it. As I always say, the conversation continues, because most conversations don't just end. Sometimes with new information, you have a new perspective. Sometimes, there's more you want to say. We've all been in arguments, and then later on, you're like, I should have hit him with this. Like, saying, so the conversation continues. There's always more to talk about. We will talk about more. But I definitely want to say thank you, Michelle, Steff, Krista, Tiffany, Jared, everyone that's listening, everyone that's watching. Comment. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you guys are going through. You want to share, get on the show, you can hit me up. Everybody that's watching this, I'm open. Holla at me. Let's do it. We could talk. Yeah, that's all I got for now. Hit the website, merchandise. You might see a new sweater on there coming soon with Jared modeling in it. You know what I'm saying? There will be more stuff coming to the merch store. 2021vision.com/store. You go straight to that, but 2021vision.com has all the shows, every episode. You can click in it. It's still linked to YouTube. I will be eventually migrating it just to the website, because YouTube be acting up sometimes. I let everyone talk how they want to talk. And right now we're in the middle of canceling and silencing. I don't do that. Everyone that comes on my show get to say how they feel, whatever's on your mind, speak it. If you're wrong, we're gonna bring some facts and we'll talk about it. But we're not just canceling people. No, we're having conversations on here. Words, music, dance. We're speaking the words. We're saying how we're saying it. We're using the body language. I talk with my hands. We're having the conversations on here. And some of these conversations are the conversations that some people are afraid to have. But we're doing it. We all grown. We're doing it. We're having it. And this is what it's here for. So we will be back for some more. The conversation continues.
Thanks, Pa.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.